In terms of the summary of everything that you have been through and your journey so far, what is most important to you at this moment in time that you would like to communicate?
I think a couple of things. Number one is that midlife is not a crisis, it's a chrysalis. It is a time of transformation. It can be painful, but yeah, I think it's got a bad brand. And that secondly, that knowledge and wisdom are not the same thing. And we've lived in a knowledge economy for the last 60 years, where computers have really dominated and they will continue to dominate. But knowledge is a commodity at this point, and wisdom is a scarcity. What's scarce is valuable. And I think we were moving into a wisdom economy.
Great. I've been working very closely with AI, and what I find that AI is really wonderful at is combining disparate things and kind of bringing them together. And I think I saw the interview that you and Seth Godin had done about the difference between wisdom and knowledge. And I'd like to ask you a little bit about your thoughts on the two and how they might come together.
So knowledge is an accumulation. You accumulate knowledge. That's the exact language. And so it is like a math equation plus, plus, plus. And if that is a math equation of arithmetic, adding things, then wisdom is the opposite. It's the division equation of distilling down what's essential. As such, wisdom is very much something that is looking at the essence of something. But also, knowledge is a bit commodified in the sense that, the knowledge of what is the capital of Paraguay is easily found everywhere. But the wisdom of how you run a great meeting is often based upon life experience. Now, it doesn't mean you couldn't have some knowledge on how to run a great meeting, but you and your own personal experience are going to influence your answer to that. And so wisdom is very personalized because it's based upon metabolizing your own experience, distilling it down to what's essential.
Now you are rebranding MEA, so tell me a little bit about that journey and why you are rebranding MEA and why at this time.
So MEA started as the Modern Elder Academy, and that is its formal name. And the reason we came up with Modern Elder Academy was because when I was the gray hair at Airbnb back, almost a dozen years ago, I was known as the modern elder there, someone who is as curious as he is wise. That's what they said, the founders said to me. So when I started the Modern Elder Academy as the world's first midlife wisdom school, I doubled down on the term modern elder. To be honest, what's been very clear is that there's a lot of people who love what we do and come to MEA, but they struggle with the word elder because number one is for some it's because it has religious connotations, and obviously we're not a religious institution. For others, and for most others, it's really about the age thing, and we live in such an ageist society that we actually take it on ourselves. So the idea that someone is owning the idea of being a modern elder is hard for them. So what we also saw was that we are the world's first midlife wisdom school that dedicated to helping people to understand what wisdom they've learned along the way. And that's what led us to saying, well, why don't we keep MEA as the acronym, but really focus on wisdom more? And so our URL went from modernelderacademy.com to meawisdom.com. And wisdom is really what we're betting on, because to be honest with you, in a world where artificial intelligence is only going to grow in its predominance, human wisdom is the balance for that AI. If you go to the MEA website, what you'll see is upon arriving that we have a variety of things available to you. We have workshops, which happen to be in Baja, but also in Santa Fe, New Mexico, starting in the spring. We have our online programs, which are 3 or 4 different online courses that we do. We have wellness retreats called Refresh that allow people to come and do a vacation, and it's sort of an educational wellness vacation. We have private groups because one of the biggest surprises we had is that once we opened is that a lot of companies and peer-to-peer networks reached out to us and said, hi, we're YPO, Young Presidents Organization. We'd like to go through your program with one of our chapters. And there's a section on campuses as well as about. And then there's the thing that I'm most proud of, Mike, and that's the blog. I have a daily blog called Wisdom Well. And every single day of the year, there is a blog post, relatively short. Monday through Friday, the blog posts are me, and then on weekends, it's guest posts, mostly with MEA alums. And So that's what you find there. There's just all kinds of great information in there. But I think the most important thing is people to know is that there's the workshops go into quite a bunch of detail of who's teaching, for everybody from Lynn Twist, from The Soul of Money, to Richard Rohr, the famous Christian mystic, to Michael Franti, the award-winning musician, all of whom are teaching MEA workshops.
Now, Chip, your background is in hospitality.
Correct.
And you have this wonderful place that you invite people to get away. And so both real world getaways and retreats, but also online kind of retreats, theater of the mind, if you will, or the subconscious. So tell me a little bit about those two worlds coming together.
Yeah, often it's called the URL versus the IRL. So the URL are the online workshops, and we specialize in digital intimacy, which sounds sort of odd, but digital intimacy means it's the next best thing to being there, and that is that we really help people to get to know each other deeply in the context of a topic on purpose or transitions or wisdom or reframing retirement. Our in-person workshops are the combination of hospitality, having been for 40 years a hospitality exec, with education around understanding midlife and later and how to develop our wisdom and our purpose, along with some wellness, some health, whether it's massage or hiking or mountain biking, or we even have a shaman. So it's a beautiful program, whether it's online or whether it's in person.
Now, at the Lafayette community meeting where we met, I was approached by a young lady, we'll call her, who was involved with you on a local level. So tell me, is there an opportunity for that? How can people become involved? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. We have 26 regional chapters around the world. We have 4,000 alumni from 44 countries, average age 54, and 26 regional chapters. So once someone does a workshop, they come home and they're in their local community and they can connect with other people who are alumni and we have all kinds of events and speakers and things like that in the local communities.
Do you have a local community here in the Lafayette, La Miranda area?
We have an East Bay. We have 4 regional chapters in the Bay Area: East Bay, North Bay, South Bay, and San Francisco.
Okay. Tell me, is there a business model associated with you, with the campuses, with teaching, opening up maybe other chapters? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes. Well, the business model is, one thing I will say is that we are very thoughtful about making sure we have financial aid so that our programs are not inexpensive. So we want people of all backgrounds to be able to experience them. I don't pay myself. I've not paid myself in the 6 years that we've been open, and I'm lucky enough that I don't need to pay myself. But the business model really is to help create a community that people want to be a part of. And ultimately, for some people, that means literally even buying a home in a regenerative community, not a retirement community, but a regenerative community that we've created here in Baja and soon in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so, yes, there's lots of ways for people to get involved in small ways. And then as they sort of move up the commitment curve in terms of what they really love about us, that they may ultimately buy a home and live in a community, a wisdom community.
Wow. Now, I am a huge fan of Alvin and Heidi Toffler, the authors of Future Shock. And I also am a student of cause and effect. And I realize that you can look around at certain causes that are going on and kind of project out into the future what will come out of those causes. If you plant an oak tree, it can grow into an oak tree. So tell me a little bit about your vision with wisdom and knowledge, because as you and Seth were talking about, the value of knowledge is going down, but the value of wisdom is going up. So project out for me a little bit about your vision, big picture vision moving forward, and how you might be able to affect the world.
Well, Peter Drucker coined the term knowledge worker in 1959 and said that the world's companies will be ruled by knowledge workers in the future. And in fact, today, 7 of the 10 most valuable companies in the world are tech companies, the ultimate form of a knowledge worker company. So he was right. And by the 1980s, we had knowledge management as a discipline within companies. So I believe that we are, just like knowledge workers and knowledge management became embedded in how we think of the workplace, I do believe in the future we will have wisdom workers and wisdom management practices. And that's part of what we teach here. So I deeply believe that, but we've spent most of our educational attention on how do you accumulate knowledge. We spent very little on helping people understand how do they distill wisdom from their lives and from what they observe in the world. And that's really what we do. And I'm so convinced of it because it sounds good, Mike, but the fact that people experience our programs and then come back over and over again and tell their friends and give us as high customer satisfaction scores as they do suggests that we're onto something.
Well, you're so convinced of it that you're writing a book. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So the book is called Learning to Love Midlife, 12 Reasons Why Life Gets Better with Age. So I like the title, Learning to Love Midlife, because I learned to love Brussels sprouts in my 30s, and I learned to love classical music in my 40s. And in my 50s, I learned to love midlife because generally midlife has a bad brand. We think of it as a crisis. We think of it as a difficult time. We think of it as a time where people get stupid and buy a Corvette and have an affair or whatever they do. And I believe that midlife deserves a little bit more credit and more care given to it because it is a transitional time for people, for many people. A lot of things are happening in midlife. You're going through menopause if you're a woman. Your parents may be passing away. You're becoming an empty nester if you have kids. You may be getting divorced. You may be changing your career. You may be having a health diagnosis that you weren't expecting. There's a lot going on. And yet we've done very little to help people with this. We've also done very little with helping people understand that once people get to midlife, actually, generally speaking, they get happier with each passing decade after that, based upon the social science of the U-curve of happiness. And so what we really do is help take social science, like around the U-curve of happiness, or Becca Levy's work from Yale that shows that when people shift their mindset on aging from a negative to a positive, they gain 7.5 years of additional life. These are things that people should be learning. So we call this long life learning, not lifelong learning, but long life learning. How do you develop a life that's as deep and meaningful as it is long? So I wanted to write about it in a book. This is my 7th book, and it comes out in January.
Well, congratulations. Now, one thing about wisdom, and this is, to a large extent because of my wife. She is a graduate of University of California, and she is a really, really smart woman. And I totally respect her. And one of the things that I believe moving forward with wisdom, there's so many opportunities that we can all come together, both men and women, and work together in ways that we have never really worked together. We've always kind of been siloed to a degree. Yep. And I think there's some great opportunities of really a blend of wisdom for the best of all worlds. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't think it's just gender. I think it's also age. I think, I've met 30-year-old wise people and very unwise 70-year-olds. So wisdom is something you develop if you choose to. If you're not like making sense of your life lessons, then you're not getting wise. So I think intergenerationally and gender-wise and racially and ethnically, that there's like lots of ways that we can share wisdom. We believe at MEA that wisdom is not taught, it's shared. So how do you create the environment for wisdom to be shared?